If you're curious about the concerts or events industry as a career, or you're thinking about getting started as a stagehand or AV tech in Seattle, this video will tell you exactly what you need to know to get started. What to expect, how to find work, how much you can expect to get paid, and what companies are best to work for when starting out. This video is just going to cover a small slice of the big pie that is the events industry, concerts industry in Seattle. And I'm going to make another version of this video in the future after I've done more jobs and worked for even more companies, so I can give you even more perspective and we can compare how things are going. But right now you can find out exactly how I've been doing after 3 months just by watching this video. You can go to the description right now for timestamps, or you can use the chapters function on YouTube if you want to skip ahead to a specific topic in the video. Like if you want to find out just how much I've made after 3 months, you can skip to that right now if you want to. Big disclaimer, everything I talk about in this video will only include things I'm allowed to say to the best of my knowledge. I'm not going to reveal personal information about the people I work for, only about the companies themselves. I'm not here to say bad things about the people I work for. If there are clients or companies that I eventually work for who I have a bad experience with, I'm just not going to mention them. That being said, the opinions I say in this video are my own and they don't reflect the opinions of the companies that I work for. Policies, trainings I've done, compensation, those are all fair game to talk about. But keep in mind that pay rates in this industry can vary wildly between people who are doing the same job, depending on things like experience and seniority. I've lived in Washington for about 1 year now, and I've been working freelance / part-time for multiple companies as an AV tech and stagehand for about 3 months. Before that, I was a production coordinator working for a company that primarily does AV and lighting, staging for events in the greater Seattle area and other parts of Washington. I got hired full-time right out of college, and it was an incredibly valuable experience that in the end didn't really fit with my career plan. So I transitioned to being part-time with the company and started being dispatched to their events, as well as working with other companies after that. Before that, I was the production coordinator and director of a radio station in Oregon. There's different names for what these jobs are in the industry depending on what you're doing and where. But for me right now, I like to think of it as there being like 3 categories of AV work. There's live performances, general events, and corporate AV. For those first 2, you're going to be known as either a grip or a stagehand most of the time when you're starting out. Both of those titles can cover general AV tasks, setting up, tearing down equipment. Although when you're a grip, it usually means that you're doing less technical work and mostly applying your general labor skills, pushing road cases, picking up stuff, loading trucks, things like that. If you have the title of stagehand on an event or production, you're going to be expected to know a little bit of everything, the core kind of tenets of AV, which are audio, lights, video, staging, and drapes. In corporate AV, the general title is going to be AV tech instead of stagehand because it sounds more professional. Stagehand is really a term that comes from theaters and the arts. By the way, AV means audio visual, not audio video as some people might think. You may see AVL written on some job descriptions, and that means specifically audio, video, and lighting. Beyond that, you'll work with other people who carry certain responsibilities or lead the install of a particular element in a production, lighting engineer, video engineer, and so on. They might also have a second in command, like an A2, an L2, etc. Riggers and forklift operators are not entry-level positions, and they require training and certification. The more time you spend as a stagehand, the more you can find what your favorite positions are. And over time, you can try and focus on those areas in order to get jobs as a dedicated Tech 1 or a Tech 2 in the industry. So how do you get started? It depends on where you're at right now. But let's say if you're in high school and you have absolutely no experience whatsoever, I would recommend that you try anything you can to get experience, like get involved with your school's theater program. And there you can learn stage terminology, lights, sound, stagecraft. You can join the AV club or film club at your school, set up projectors in the classroom, start a band with your friends and borrow speakers, play concerts in living rooms. All of those things will prepare you for working in the industry. Specifically, things like carrying and transporting gear that's fragile, being around loud things, and being comfortable working around people who are busy and really passionate about what they do. Those volunteer experiences are going to stand out to let employers know that you're capable of being trusted with some level of responsibility. If you have things like a forklift certification, a degree, a list of productions you've worked on, or any type of professional training, you might have an easier time getting work in the beginning. But keep this in mind, experience can be earned and skills can be taught, but a bad attitude is not going to be overlooked. This type of work rewards people who can adapt and improvise comfortably under stressful and tight conditions. If you have a reputation for being rude or unprofessional, you won't be working for very long. If you stay enthusiastic, then you'll likely stay employed. Pros and hourly minimums. Starting with the pros of stagehand work, it's really simple. I think it is amazing to be a part of a team and work on a production. It's really cool. There's always something new to learn, and you're never doing the same thing twice. When I get offered work, I get to choose if I want to take it. There's nobody telling me I have to work if I don't want to. There's tons of other personal things that I like about the work, but another big pro, the last one we'll talk about, is the hourly minimums, which is a norm in the industry, which if you're not familiar, here's how it works. For each shift you work, about 90% of the time, the employer is gonna pay you a minimum number of hours for you to show up and complete the work. Let's say you're working a load-in for an event that starts at 10 a.m., like that's when you arrive, and that company pays a 4-hour minimum. If you finish that load-in by noon, you're still gonna get paid 4 hours, even if the total work time is 2 hours. You might come back later that night and do the loadout, and you'll get another separate 4-hour minimum for that. It can obviously be more if it takes longer than 4 hours, but for most shifts, it's nice because you can anticipate what you're gonna be paid before you even say yes to the job. The cons are also kind of obvious. Since this is almost always part-time work, it's what makes people who wanna start out in the industry kind of cringe. There are very few full-time jobs in the industry, and the ones that do exist, they aren't always worth it. So to make enough money consistently, you're gonna be working part-time, a couple of days a week for a few companies at a time as much as possible. There's no guarantee that you're gonna be offered work at all unless you have some type of consistent gig, which I would recommend if you can. Most of the time, you're either working too much or not enough. Another thing to keep in mind are jobs that you're not hired as an employee, but you're doing contract work. It can be sometimes tough or awkward to chase down your clients and ask them to pay you, but I'll talk about this more in a moment. So what company should you work for? This is highly individualized, and so I can only talk about my experience and what I did. I would recommend you start AV work while you have another part-time job, but if you have to just jump right into it, having more availability will be helpful. You should have your eyes on some of the larger companies in your area, wherever you are, Seattle or not. And also, you should personally reach out to the smaller companies and get in contact with the local IATSE wherever you are. Again, I can only speak about companies that I've specifically worked for, and I'll be able to talk about more over time as I do work for other companies. But if you're just starting out, this is what I would recommend applying to. Number 1, Rhino Staging. So Rhino is a nationwide company and they do really good work. They're really good for people who only have a handful of experience and they want to do more. They will hire you. You'll be able to jump right in, building truss, audio and video systems, video walls, pipe and drape, staging, and it's a great way to get a lot of experience fast. They let you do a lot. Rhino pays $28 an hour to start, and you'll get a 50-cent raise after completing your onboarding training, which usually happens after your first few shifts. It's just a small little presentation where they'll go over some stuff that if it didn't come up in your first few shifts, they want you to know. To work at Rhino, you'll be required to provide your own steel-toed boots and gloves. For most jobs, you'll also need a hard hat and a high-vis vest, which they sometimes provide, but most people will buy their own hat and vest anyway because they'll need it for other jobs. And sometimes Rhino won't bring enough to share, and you can be turned away on a job if you show up and you don't have what you need. Rhino's work is flexible. They will offer you shifts via text or email, and it's important that you respond to them as soon as possible, whether or not you can work it. And over time, they'll offer you more and more as you have more experience. The second place to work is your local IATSE. In Seattle's case, it is the Local 15. Your local stagehand union will take a bit longer to get into, but when you do, it's a great place to work. I'm actually doing my first couple of shifts with my local union this week. I'm really excited about it. It'll give me something to talk about in the next video too, about how it went. But from what I've been told by friends who have been doing union work, they will offer you some of the best pay rates because they have the power to negotiate with employers, obviously, collective bargaining and all that. The union itself is not an employer, but it gives you access to a hiring hall, which is a website where you can pick shifts that you want to work among a bunch of things in the area. And you'll fill out your W-2 and hiring paperwork with that employer specifically as you get confirmed for those jobs. The union, like Rhino, will require you to bring certain tools on every job. I think the official list might be more specific, but it's like a screwdriver, a crescent wrench, a tape measure, things like that, and you'll need to have a little carrying case to have those things on you all the time. The union offers free healthcare for members who work a certain number of hours each month. If you are somebody who gets really into union work, you could get free healthcare and make a decent living that way. The hourly pay and minimums vary based on the employer that you're specifically being hired by, so keep that in mind. The online portal for picking jobs can be kind of confusing to look at first, but if you're even a little bit competent with computers, you'll figure it out, plus there are video tutorials that they provide. I know some people who really love working for the union and some people who really hate it. Always gonna be that depending on whatever companies I talk about. Definitely give it a shot, and it's where you're gonna get a lot of really valuable experience. And the third company I'll talk about today is BLS, who is formerly Bellevue Lighting. They're now called BLS, Bellevue Lighting and Stage. They are the youngest and smallest organization on this short list, but they've been growing rapidly. The shifts you'll get offered at BLS are much lower pressure. You can learn a lot from the people who work there, and there's a larger range of pay rates that you can work your way up to, starting at $26 an hour for grips and $55 an hour for riggers. So as you gain more experience, more certifications, you could go far. The general feeling around BLS is that because they're a new company, they're a great place to get started if you need experience and you don't have a lot to do. Overall, I would say BLS is a great place to start looking for work if you don't have any experience, or you have a little experience but want to start doing a lot more. Depending on your availability, they'll be able to offer you a good amount of stuff. With all that being said, any company that you decide to work for is gonna have work available to you on a day-by-day basis. Sometimes there's nothing, sometimes there's a lot. It's gonna be a battle then to think about what shifts you have from a company, and then what other shifts they may offer you on the same day, the next day, what time. Give yourself a good amount of sleep in between. Try not to do multiple things with multiple companies a day. Just because a job is paying you for a minimum amount of time for a load in or a load out, keep in mind that it may go much longer, it may be much shorter. Try not to schedule yourself for a shift at Rhino and then a shift at BLS on the same day if you can help it, because you might have to stay much longer at Rhino and be late for your BLS shift. You're gonna have a good, successful time with all these companies, assuming that you can keep up with the sometimes demanding labor-heavy work. You should be okay. All right, next, let's talk about tracking your income, taxes, and getting paid. So what I do is I keep a spreadsheet of all the shifts that I work, what rate I'm being paid, and how many hours I work, including overtime hours that pay time and a half. I also keep track of what stage of the payment process I'm at, so I can remember if I still need to invoice a client, if I've already invoiced a client, or if I'm hired as an employee and I just need to wait for the next direct deposit. For jobs that don't hire you as an employee, meaning that they don't deduct taxes during payroll, and instead they pay you as an independent contractor, you'll need a way to invoice your clients for your services and to pay taxes. If you're doing a lot of contract invoicing, you can pay for a subscription to use a professional service like QuickBooks, or if you're not planning on doing a whole lot of contract work yet, you can use a service like PayPal for free. You can also just write up an invoice document using a Google Sheet or a Google Doc, send it to your client, ask them to send you a check or in cash. Personally, I like using PayPal because even though it charges me a percentage, it makes it super easy for my clients to pay by bank transfer, credit card, Venmo, or PayPal, and I'm not doing a whole lot of contract work right now. Anyway, to pay your taxes, you should purchase a business license in the state that you live in so you can report your income for jobs that don't deduct taxes, like if you're being paid under the table or if you're being paid not as an employee. You can submit taxes that you got from your income quarterly. Keep in mind, it can be a bit of a headache. I have some friends who did a lot of contract work, and at the end of the year, they owed a lot because it tended to stack up. So if you are somebody who's gonna be doing this line of work, you're gonna get multiple W-2s from employers, you'll get some 1099s from some employers, and for some employers you won't get anything, and you'll need a way to keep track of all of that. So anything you can do to make filing your taxes easier in advance is a great idea. All right, the moment you've been waiting for. So keep in mind that I started freelancing in the middle of April, and June is not over yet, but I'm pretty sure that I've gotten all the jobs that I'm gonna have for June. So starting with April, I worked a total of 8 shifts between April 19th and April 30th. My pay rate varied from $26 an hour at the lowest to $45 an hour at the highest, with my average rate then being calculated at $31 an hour. In total, in April, I earned $1,243, working a total of 41.66 hours. You can see why I really value my spreadsheet and keeping track of all of this now, because now we're gonna be able to compare this to the next month and the next month after that, with the goal of trying to increase my average pay rate, increase the number of hours, and increase the overall pay that I'm getting. So next up, in May, I worked a total of 13 shifts between May 2nd and May 30th. My pay rate varied from $28 an hour at the lowest to $50 at the highest, with my average rate being $33 an hour. In total, in May, I earned $1,921, working a total of 55 hours. In June, I worked a total of 7 shifts from June 11th to June 27th. You can see already that this is a bit of a slower month. My pay rate varied from $26 an hour at the lowest to only $34 an hour at the highest, with my average rate then being $29 an hour. June was also the first month I finally was approved to start working with IATSE, and I also started keeping track of my overtime hours separate from the normal rate hours. In total, in June, I will have earned $1,453 with 25 hours total worked as normal hours and 15 overtime hours. So you might have a lot of thoughts after hearing those numbers. Keep in mind, again, this is part-time work right now. The more that I'm able to work, I might be working close to full-time hours at a rate that might be more than your regular 9 to 5, but your 9 to 5 has some more consistency than my job does. I am married. I rent a studio apartment in Seattle. My wife works full-time and we have 1 car. Every week I'm applying to as many new jobs and new companies as I can. Like you saw in June, I try to take shifts that are overnight because I can get time and a half for those, and that helps when there's less hours to go around. You can see I did that a lot in June. You can see that sometimes there's plenty of work and other times there's not a whole lot of work. Sometimes I'm getting a really good rate. Sometimes I have to take what I can and take the lower rates, and it makes my average rate go down. That's just what it's like being a gig worker. And I'm somebody that's used to seeing this because my dad was a gig worker his entire life and still is. So I understand the working life of somebody who has inconsistent pay. And for me, it's worth it to do something that I really love and work hard at it in order to get better over time and increase my wage, rather than doing something that, you know, might be really safe, working at McDonald's or something, but is sucking my soul. So this is just my life right now. I'm still starting out after all, but hopefully in a few months when I make this video again, I'll be able to show you how I've been improving the rate that I've been paid every month. That's the goal, at least. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was informative for people who are interested in getting into this type of work, or if you're interested what it's like for certain people who are freelancing in different industries than your own. I don't really have an outro yet. Until next time, here's my big dumb guy smile. And remember to be excellent to each other. Peace. It'd be crazy if I wasn't recording.